that Kathleen and Myra are both Clyburn Fellows.
Yeah.
But I want to welcome to the microphone Congressman James Clyburn.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Crystal. Thank you, Myra. And thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate being here with you. And that kind of energy is exactly what we need in these days. And thank you so much for the leadership that you are providing to our state and to Beaufort County. I really appreciate you. I want to thank all of you who are here, but most especially those with whom I've had such a long relationship over the years. I told a group up in Spartanburg night before last that if all goes well between now and July 21st, I'm going to celebrate the 46th anniversary of my 39th birthday. Those of you who are better in math than I was, that adds up to 85 years, and I'm proud of every one of those 85 years. And I want to now I see my college classmate who's probably been masquerading as someone much younger, and I can tell you he is president of our senior class, James Gilliard, and he is at least a year older than me. Tom Bonwell, thank you so much. We go way back. And the Campbells, thank you guys for being here. We served a long sentence as members of the Board of Trustees of Penn Community Center for several years. And Billy, Mayor Billy, thank you so much. Thank you, Senator Matthews, for being here. I would have felt real bad if I come all the way down here and you not show up. And I'll tell your family on you. I know your family. I know how well they raised you. Thank you. I told Crystal earlier that I was going to come to the mic before I started to answer questions. There's some things I really wanted to say. But Myra, I think you've done it. You've saved me a lot of time. The stuff I've got on this paper here. And so thank you so much for covering the waterfront for us here this day. So we can go directly into the Q&A. And I want to hear from you. If you've got any ideas, any suggestions you want to make, I want to hear them. But I want to start by asking Crystal to put up for me, I think it's slide number 2. Yeah. You know, Martin Luther King Jr., I was first introduced to Beaufort County back in the 60s. In fact, I think it may have been before. I came to Beaufort to sit down with Martin Luther King Jr. here at Penn Community Center at what became, what we used to call, I don't know what it is these days, the Retreat House. And many of you know that King did a lot of his writings here in this county. The Great March on Washington and the Poor People's Campaign. Those marches were planned and developed here at Penn Community Center. But there's one writing from Dr. King that was not done here. It was done while he was sitting in the Birmingham City Jail. when King was sitting in that jail back in 1963, he received a letter from 8 clergymen. And in that letter, King saw a request from these 8 clergymen who said to him, by the way, one of those 8 had South Carolina connections. They said to him that they wanted him to leave Burnham because he was a destructive force. And they went on to write in their letter. Now, a lot of people have read King's letter, but I've read the letter. I always like to know the source. So King's letter is great. I've read it 100 times. But I've also read the letter that he received that made him write what he wrote. And in their letter, they said to him, and I'm paraphrasing, "We don't want you to get the wrong idea, Dr. King. We believe that your cause is right. We just think that your timing is wrong." And so King, when he sat down to respond to them, the jailers would not give him any paper to write on. He started responding to that letter in the margins of the newspapers that he had in the cell with him. And he said to them 4 words that I think is very, very important tonight and during this time within which we live. These 4 words were: time itself is neutral. Time itself is neutral. Then it went on to say that time is never right and time is never wrong. Time is always what we make it. And then he wrote, "I am coming to the conclusion that the people of ill will in our society are making a much better use of time than the people of goodwill." He wrote that. It's 1963. And he said he was coming to the conclusion that the people of ill will were making a much better use of time than the people of goodwill. And then he concluded the thought with this: we will have to repent in this generation, not merely for the vitriolic words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people. All right. Now, I never go anywhere these days when people are not asking me 2 questions. Number 1, have you ever seen it like this before? My answer is always the same: no, I have not. But it has been like this before. The reason I have not seen it before, and none of you have seen it like this before, because none of us were around in 1876 when we were celebrating the 100th anniversary of our nation's founding. We were founded as a nation in 1776. That's the established year. Well, some people quibble about whether it was 77. I'm not going to quibble. I wasn't there. So we give birth, and which means we're getting ready in 2 years to celebrate 250 years. We celebrated our 100th year by bringing an end to Reconstruction. That's right. Reconstruction ended for all practical purposes with the election of Rutherford B. Hayes as president of the United States over Samuel Tilden, 1876. And by the way, Hayes was elected president of these United States by one vote. One vote. Elect 185 to 184. And the committee that the House of Representatives sent out to meet with the candidates who were Samuel Tilden from New York, who finished with 184 electoral votes, one vote short. Hayes had 165, 20 votes short. And a committee of from 3 states, that went out to meet with them to make recommendations to the House of Representatives, were composed of 15 people. It was a 15-member committee. The 20 votes in question were from Florida, Louisiana, and South Carolina. And when they met with the candidates, they decided to give those 20 votes to Hayes to get him from 165 to 185 on the promise that he would bring it in to Reconstruction. The vote of the committee was 8 to 7. So when people tell you, my one vote does not count, remind them that Reconstruction came to an end by one vote. Remind them that Jim Crow became the law of the land by one vote. And when I stood before the National Democratic Convention last year, I addressed Project 2025 saying that Project 2025 is Jim Crow 2.0. So we're here tonight to break our silence. We've been too quiet in the country. We've been too quiet in South Carolina. We've been too lackadaisical. We have got to preserve this democracy. This is a great country, in no need of being made great.
Right.
What we have got to do is muster the energy, raise the voices, find the common ground to work together so that we can make the greatnesses of this country accessible and affordable for all. So, if it's health care, how can we make health care accessible and affordable for everybody? Education, housing, energy, whatever it is that makes this country great, our responsibility is to make it accessible and affordable. And we have to find the common ground to do that. Now, we're not going to always agree. My Lord, I stayed married to the same woman for 58 years. Gillian knew her very well. And so he can tell you, God may bless her, that she was a Gullah Egypt woman. That ought to tell you something. And so I know something about disagreements. But I also know that to be successful in any endeavor, it calls for reconciling differences. It calls for finding common ground. And it happens in the home, in our communities, in our political discourse. Whatever it is, we should reconcile these differences and find common ground. And so tonight, we decided that we were going to really emphasize veterans. But there's something particularly egregious about saying to people who've given their all, some of whom have given the ultimate sacrifice and have left family with, let's say, the inability to really live a productive life without the services of the Veterans Administration. And I want to emphasize the word service, because I think that what is happening in the country today is a sort of violation of that. We call the organizations supporting our veterans the Veterans Services Organization, not the Veterans Corporation. The Veterans Services Organization. We call our Postal Service, not the Postal Corporation, Postal Services. They're there to provide a service. And I know for years now, you've been hearing people run around making headlines saying, we got to treat government like a business. Yeah. Well, let me tell you something. Thank you so much. That is the biggest. Well, we should not treat government like a business. Businesses exist to make a profit. They cannot exist without making a profit. I know so well. My mother was a tremendous businesswoman. And I know what it takes for businesses to operate. Our veterans will not be at the mercy of any corporation that's beholden to its investors. They should be taken care of by this government that they gave so much to help preserve. And so we wanted to talk about them. And then the big thing about it in the postal services, you may not have focused on this. Now they want to privatize the Veterans Administration. And then they want to privatize the postal services. I want to give you a little number. Do you have this? I don't think they gave you this. I think they misunderstood what I said to them this morning. I'll talk to you. Because that's why I got this in yellow on here, because I wanted this on the card. There are nearly 73,000 veterans on the staff of the Postal Service. Wow. There are 1.2 million veterans who will be put at risk of hunger if we cut $230 billion out of the SNAP program. Now this may sound strange to a lot of you. And quite frankly, when I first found this out years ago, I thought it was a misrepresentation of the truth. But there are active duty military who receive food stamps because they are eligible based upon family sizes and family income. They are eligible. And we are now talking about getting rid of what we now call SNAP. And according to the figures, 1.2 million veterans will be put at risk of hunger. Now, housing. Over 175,000 veterans are housed in programs that are assisted by the federal government for them to be affordable. And we're now about to put housing security for 175,000 veterans at risk. And last, 80,000 jobs are on the chopping block for the Veterans Affairs. My late wife retired as a librarian at the Veterans Administration Hospital. I know of no one who is more dedicated to the service of veterans than Emma was. I'll never shall forget, we were coming back from Australia some years ago, and because of the distance, we had to stop over in Hawaii for crew rest, which meant we had to spend 24 hours there so the crew could get the necessary rest. And so they asked all of us on the plane, what would you like to do when you get to Hawaii? And people were all telling what they wanted to do for that 24-hour period. And when they got to Emily, she says, I want to go to Pearl Harbor. I didn't know why, didn't ask. And so they arranged for us to go to Pearl Harbor. So we got on the boat, went out to Pearl Harbor. You know, one of the ways you stay married for 58 years, you don't ask a whole lot of questions. So I didn't ask why. You walk through the door, she walked up to the desk, and she said to the lady there, now I know that you all have kept good records of the people who died here. I would like to know, she said, did y'all keep the records of the people who survived Pearl Harbor? And the lady said, yes, we do. She said, but I would like to see. They left the desk and went back in the back and came out with a big cloth folded binder. And she handed it to Emily and she said, is there anything special you would like to see? She said, yes, I'd like to see the people from South Carolina, particularly Charleston, who survived. So the lady flipped over and said, well, here's the South Carolina section. Emily turned it around and she went down the list looking for her mother's brother. And she found it. Joseph Henry Washington. It was on the USS Arizona on that fateful day, December 7th, I believe, 1941. And she looked at it, she put her finger on his name, she closed the book and says, Clyburn, she never knew my first name. We can go back now. But the lady says, no, you gotta wait for the next boat to go. So we had to sit there all day. And we took in a tour. But all she wanted to do was see her uncle's name. Because that uncle did not have children. But she and her sister would have never gone to college but for his veterans benefits and sent them to college. So I know from our own personal experiences that we should not put our veterans at the mercy of investors. We should not put Social Security at the mercy of Wall Street.
Amen.
Y'all remember George W. Bush made the big proposal to privatize Social Security. What you may have forgotten is at the same time he was making that push, there was a big popular investor on Wall Street whose name was Madoff.
Lord have mercy.
He was the guy that everybody was giving their money to. And all of a sudden they woke up one day and Madoff had made off. That's what will happen if we allow our Social Security trust fund to be exposed to Wall Street gamblers. That's what will happen. Our Social Security trust fund should be there for all of us, and it has never, in 89 years, has not missed a payment. And we should never, ever allow Social Security to become privatized, but that's what's going on in Washington right now. And let me close by saying to those of you who are younger and you are being exposed to all of this foolishness that Social Security is not going to be there for you. Well, let me tell you something. Social Security is there for you right now. R-A-T, right now. Because Social Security is not just about growing old and collecting survivor benefits. You're in Social Security. I know I've got fellow members in Congress who went to college off survivor benefits. And so for young children, there's Social Security there for you now. And so you may have to wait to be 65 or 67 to get that benefit, but you could be 15, 16, and 17, and your parents are there. Their survivor benefits will accrue to you now. And so let's think about how we can find a common ground and do the things that are necessary to make this country's greatness, and Social Security is one of them, accessible and affordable for all. And without answering questions.